Welcome to OK Miniatures. I'm Kay, and today we'll be making a ship. I started off by drawing an outline of the base of the ship. I decided on having it 12 inches long by 4 inches thick, and I just drew one half and then mirrored it when cutting it out so that the sides would be symmetrical. I split it into 3 sections, which worked nicely for having the back third of the deck raised, the middle third flat, and the front third sloping up. And also my paper wasn't 12 inches long. I cut out the outline on XPS foam. I thought it would look better to have the edges curving in so that it'd be rounded, but I basically ended up undoing this later, so just skip this step. It's a waste of time. I traced out the front and back thirds of the ship again to make a raised and sloped section I mentioned earlier. The back piece is good as is, I just cut it to be 4 inches long. For the front piece, I used my knife to make a nice even slope. And then I glued them both onto the base piece using PVA glue. Next, I added texture to everything. It would be easier to do this before gluing it all together, which was my original plan until I forgot and glued it all together. So just first cut straight lines on the decks and edges. I did this freehand, but if you aren't confident cutting straight edges, just use a ruler to keep them straight. Then I just dragged a wire brush over the surfaces, which gives a nice wood grain kind of look. And finally, I used a pin to add nail holes on the ends of each board. I wanted to add a raised edge around the entire ship, so I cut a piece of 1/2 inch foam in half, so it'd be a more reasonable thickness for a board. If you have a foam cutter, this will be much easier for you, but it is doable with a knife too, if that's all you have. And then I cut down the sides so that they stick about an inch over the deck all the way around. To do this, I also had to cut a dip in the edge to match where the deck is lower. And then once one side was done, I just used it as a template for the other side. Remember to add texture to these before gluing them on. It will make your life much easier. I glued the sides on and attached them using pins. There were these giant holes between the side and the base where I had rounded the edges, which made it difficult for the glue to have enough surface area to work on. I remember using drywalling mud for the water tiles, so due to lack of better options, I slapped some of that in the gap. I'm not convinced this was a good idea, since first, it was super thick and took forever to dry, and second, it's not glue, so it cracked and pulled away from the foam as it dried. Moral of the story, don't mess up. Then I made this super fancy figurehead. Okay, so I was a little short on time and ideas, but at least it's very versatile. Alright, and then we're going to cover everything with black Mod Podge. And then we're going to paint everything brown for the base coat. And dry brush with a light gray mixed with brown. And finish it all up with a black wash. For the mast, I used a 3/8 inch dowel I had laying around. For the sails, I decided to use paper since everybody has access to that. But if you'd rather, cloth makes a much better option. I'll talk about that in a minute. For the paper, I crumpled it up and then covered it with a brown wash. You gotta be careful not to go too heavy since the paper will tear easily because it's getting wet. And then I just cut out some basic triangles, making sure to keep the base long enough to reach the front or back of the boat and the height tall enough to reach close to the top of the mast. I just drilled a 3/8 inch hole for the base for the mast to go in. It would have been better to do this before the Mod Podge, but oh well. This hole gives a nice fit for the dowel so that it stays upright without being glued in, which I really wanted so that I could switch out the sails if I so desired. I super glued the paper to the mast and pinned it to the base so that the mast and sails can be exchanged for different mast sail combo. I don't really like super gluing the sails to the mast since I'd rather keep it completely modular, but I didn't have a better option and pinning it to the wood wasn't really working. If you do have a sewing machine or lots of patience, cloth sails look really nice. You can also use eye hooks and lobster clasps to have a really nice way of interchanging sails. I actually used this on a boat I made for engineering class, which I really enjoyed. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below with any questions you might have or future ideas you'd like to see done. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the future.